good evening. Let's go ahead and work on our chapter for multiplying integers. As we see, number 16 has already been done for us in the book, and they're saying that when we take a negative number and multiply it to a positive number, it's going to make a negative number. So let's go ahead and always remember that a negative times a negative equals a positive. A positive times a positive will also equal a positive. But as our example shows, if ever we have a negative times a positive, that will equal a negative number. All right? So any negative number times a negative number equals a positive number. And any time a positive number is multiplied to a positive number, it equals a positive number. But any time a negative number is multiplied to a positive number, we're going to get a negative answer. And that's why negative 7 times 11, well, that's 77. And a negative times a positive, that's a negative number. Let's go to number 18. We have, once again, a positive number multiplied to a negative number. Well, we know our answer is going to be negative because of that. Because a positive times a negative equals a negative. 25 times 2 is 50, so our answer is simply negative 50. Let's go to number 20. We have a negative 9 to the second power. Now what we have to remember is whenever we have an exponent, it's really saying that number multiplied to itself this many times. So what we really have is negative 9 times negative 9. And now we have a negative times a negative. Well, we said a negative times a negative would equal a positive. So we know answer will be a positive number. And since 9 times 9 is 81, our answer would be 81. Let's move on to number 22. Write a multiplication expression to represent each situation and find each product and explain the meaning. An average person loses 50 to 80 hairs per day to make way for new growth. Suppose you lose 65 hairs per day for 15 days without growing any. Well, what equation can we make for this? Well, they said that we're going to lose 65 hairs. And they said there would be 15 days involved. And since we're losing 65 hairs per day, that's 65 times 15. Now, we're losing hair, so that means we have a negative 65. There's no such thing as negative days, so we have to say this is positive. So how many hairs are we losing per day would be our question. Well, if we take these two numbers here, 65 times 15, 5 times 5 is going to be 25. 6 times 5 would be 30, plus 2 makes 32. And now we have to remember we got to take this 1 and multiply it to 65 as well, but not before we place a 0 value there. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 6, well, that's 65. So now we can add these together. 5 plus 0 is 5, 2 plus 5 is 7, and 3 plus 6 is 9. So our answer is 975. But remember, a negative times a positive will equal a negative. So we're going to lose, that's minus 975 hairs a day. Oh, I'm sorry, hairs in 15 days. And that would be our answer. Let's go ahead and work number 24 now. Evaluate each expression. If A equals negative 6, B equals negative 4, C equals 3, and D equals 9. Well, 24 says negative 5c. So the negative 5 will stay there, and we're going to replace c with 3. And now we have negative 5 times 3. Well, 5 times 3 is 15. And remember, a negative times a positive will equal a negative number. Let's go and try number 26. It starts off with 2, and then it has a, so that's 2 times a. We put the 2 there, and now we go to see what a is. A is negative 6. So we're going to multiply 2 to negative 6. Well, 2 times 6 is 12, and a positive times a negative will leave us a negative number. Number 28 says a times b times c. Well, a is negative 6, and we're going to multiply that to b, which is negative 4. And we're going to multiply that to c, which is 3. And now we can begin. Well, negative 6 times negative 4. Let's examine that first. We got 6 times 4. We know that's 24. We also know that a negative times a negative equals a positive. So far we got positive 24. So we can cross these out. But now we have to multiply our answer by 3. "24 times 3, well, that's almost like 24 or 25 times 3, which is 75, but we're going to subtract 3 from it. So I know the answer is going to be 72. And since we have a positive times a positive, my answer will be positive 72. For those wondering how I came up with that estimate, let's just do our mathematics and see what we come up with. If I take 24 times 3, we see 4 times 3 equals 12, so the 2 comes down. We carry 1. 3 times 2 would equal 6, plus 1 would be 7, and that's how I got 72. 30 says negative 3 times a to the second power. Well, we're going to take negative 3, and remember that a is negative 6, so that's going to make negative 6 to the second power. PEMDAS says that we must do our exponents first, which means we'll take this negative 6 to the second power and work it before we'll multiply negative 3 to negative 6. If I do that, I'm going to see that I have negative 3 is going to be multiplied, but only after I take negative 6 and multiply it to negative 6. Remember, the exponent 2 means not negative 6 times 2, but negative 6 times negative 6. We multiply the number in the parentheses to itself the number of times the exponent states. Now I have negative 3, it's going to come down. And negative 6 times negative 6, well, 6 times 6 is 36. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Lastly, we have to take negative 3 and multiply it to 36. Right off the bat, we know that a negative times a positive will leave us a negative answer. And now all that's left is to take 36 and multiply it by 3. If I take 36 and multiply it by 3, I remember that I have 6 times 3, which is 18. I carry the 1, and 3 times 3 is 9. Add 1 more, leaves me 108. So my answer is negative 108. 32 states negative 2a plus b. Well, negative 2a means negative 2 times whatever a is, which is negative 6. And when we're done, we're going to add that to b, and b is negative 4. Let's begin. Well, in PEMDAS, multiplication comes before addition, so we will do negative 2 times negative 6 first. 2 times 6 is 12. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Now we're going to take this and add it to negative 4. Well, remember, anytime we have a symbol outside, we can state that it's really a positive 1 there. And a positive times a negative, that's going to give us a negative number. And 1 times 4 is 4. So now we have 12 minus 4, and that's going to equal 8. All right, the rest of the problems are for you to do. So see you in class, but not before I give you your first video code word, at least the first code word I'm going to give you within the video. And I'm going to write it out here. For those of you that remember to write it on your paper before you turn it in, you'll get a treat from me. Your code word for the day is, let's see, hostess, co-host. So if you write this on your paper, you will be able to go ahead and collect a treat from me when you come in class. See you later.